Zach.
And we are live. Hello, book lovers, and welcome to Authors Love Bookstores from a Mighty Blaze. I'm your host, Joe Moldover, author of the novel Every Moment After, and I am so happy to be here with you this afternoon for our last broadcast of 2021. And we have such a special show for you today. Every week, Authors Love Bookstores travels across the United States, Canada, and last week, the United Kingdom, to highlight independent booksellers and the authors who love them. I collaborate with my friend, partner, and fellow writer, Kimberly Hensel-Lorance, to bring you wonderful writers and wonderful booksellers. And today, we are in Michigan with the author Wade Rouse and booksellers Matt and Jesselyn Norcross from McLean Eakin Books in Petoskey, Michigan. So good to see all of you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
A few words about Wade. Wade Rouse is the internationally best-selling author of 11 books to date. I believe that's the right number, including 4 memoirs and 5 novels, which have been translated into 20 languages and sold over 1 million copies worldwide. Wade has a number of accolades and rave reviews, but my personal favorite is that Wade was named by Writer's Digest as the #2 writer, dead or alive, we'd like to have drinks with, sandwiched between Ernest Hemingway and Hunter Thompson. I'm not sure you can beat that as an achievement.
It's either a compliment or a curse. I don't know.
Oh man, it's a huge compliment. Wade's novels, written under the pen name Viola Shipman, are beloved by readers across the world. Wade chose his grandmother's name as a pen name to honor the woman whose heirlooms and family stories inspire his fiction. And we will be talking today about a number of his works, including this one, available now, The Secret of Snow. Wade, it's so good to see you. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having us. I'm excited for your first Michigan store.
It's our 80th episode in First Michigan, so I don't know what we've been doing. And Wade, we're here with McLean Eakin Books because you chose them as your beloved indie bookseller. So I'm gonna turn to you and say, will you tell us why? Tell us what is so special about this bookstore.
I'm gonna start with the way back story, if that's okay.
Oh yeah.
You know, when authors start their careers, they think it's going to be like Sex in the City and limos are going to pull up like they did for Carrie. So I did one of my very first events at a big unnamed box store in which I walked in and I was given a microphone and told to bring people to the back of the store, in which one person showed up. My next event was with McLean Eakin. And I walked in to find that they had a basement filled with people who were already have read and were excited to be there for my memoir. And that was about 15 years ago. And we all know this, but over the years, you know, these indie booksellers not only mean the world to our communities, but they mean the world to authors. You know, these are the last folks in the world that are actually reading authors' books and then hand selling them to buyers that walk into their bookstore. And, you know, over the years, Matt and Jess have not just become, you know, a tour stop, they've actually become friends and family to me. And I think that's what it means to most authors around the country. You know, they have supported me, they've cheerled me, they've blurbed me, they have had incredible events, but mostly they have been there for me as friends who supported my work, both fiction and nonfiction over the years. And I can never express enough thanks for what they've done for me in my career over the years. And by the way, you can hear from them, they are one of the best indie booksellers in the nation, not only with the breadth of what they offer from adult and children's books, but also to the service that they give not only their community, but anybody that walks into their very busy store during the summer months.
That's wonderful. I think you summarize. I mean, you really captured so well what independent booksellers mean to both readers and to writers, and it's absolutely something that big box sellers and online sellers can never capture. Matt and Jesselyn, I want to come to you and ask you, bring us to, and I hope I'm saying it the right way, Petoskey, Michigan.
You nailed it.
Tell us what's going on right now and what it's like to be an independent bookseller at this particular moment in time.
It's been an interesting couple of years. Independent bookselling has been interesting for probably always. We battled ebooks, we battled online, and now we've battled a pandemic. And it's been an interesting time. We've had an outpouring of support from the wonderful readers that do visit us in the summer and all year long. And the truth of the matter is, we've got an amazing crew of booksellers on hand that have kept this very stormy and tumultuous time easier to handle than we would have expected. And, we do feel the store is going to be stronger than ever coming out of this because we have found so many customers online, and we were closed for a period of time during the, first part of the lockdowns and the pandemics, and people found us online, and they've continued to shop with us throughout the pandemic. And now that we are open again, they still shop with us, and we are a family. Our daughter's here as well, is popping in. But it's challenges and difficulties, but really the staff and the crew here and the authors that are supporting us have made it much easier than it could have been. So we're very thankful.
That's great. And I want to remind the online audience who's with us now live, as well as the people who are watching this in future time online, that we are here to support independent booksellers. The links are in the chat. You can click through. You can go to McLean Eakin, pick up a copy of the latest Viola Shipman. Maybe you already have it. Maybe you already have a few and you've given them as gifts. That's fine. I think that there's about 10 others that you can pick up. All of those links are in the chat. Wade, I'm going to come to you, and I wonder if we could just talk a little bit about this book, The Secret of Snow, out now. It's a book that I think has a very personal meaning and connection for you, and I think that you and in some of what you've written and said about this book tie it not only to your personal story and to the story in the book, but to what's going on more broadly in our culture and our country right now, coping with the COVID pandemic. I wonder if you would just give us a few words about the book, what the book is about, and the process of writing this book for you and bringing the story to us.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, this is I think it's my most deeply personal novel to date. And in short, it follows a 50-year-old meteorologist named Sunny Dunes who lives in Palm Springs, California, only knows perfect weather. And she goes to work one day and her young punk of a boss tells her she's being replaced by an artificial intelligent weather girl who will never age, gain weight, or renegotiate her contract. So she does what I would do. She goes to a Rat Pack bar and gets very, very drunk and wakes up the next day to find out she didn't return home. She actually went back to the station and had an epic meltdown that's gone viral around the world. And the only place that will hire her back is the northern Michigan town where she grew up and she ran from her whole life. So she has to return back to Traverse City, Michigan, which if you don't know, northern Michigan, very close to Petoskey, one of the most beautiful areas in the world, stunningly gorgeous. And she has to confront a frenemy who she was mean to in college, all the friends she ghosted in her small hometown, and also returns home to live with her mother, a wisecracking hospice nurse who thinks she's Ellen, modeled after my own mom. And, really the novel is about, she's run her whole life, Sunny has, because she lost her younger sister when she was young. And she's spent her whole life kind of sprinting from those memories. And she went to the sunniest place to avoid all the winter memories of her sister. And it's, as you said, it's inspired by my own story. I lost my brother when I was 13 years old. And as you can imagine, it shattered my family. And I thought it would shatter the trajectory of our holidays forever. He was our king of Christmas and holidays. I grew up in the Missouri Ozarks. He was the guy that went in the backyard in our woods and cut down a pine tree, drug it into the house, stuck it in a tree stand, and drenched it in tinsel. And I expected that, Christmas would never be like that again. And I came home the next year, and my mom was a hospice nurse, and my grandma, Viola Shipman, had gone into the woods and cut a tree down, dragged it into the house, put it in a tree stand, and drenched it in tinsel. And my mom and grandma said, "Why are we trying so hard to forget about your brother? His memories made us who we are, so we should be celebrating that every day." So, I wrote this book really as a kind of a holiday hug for so many in America. We've lost 800,000 people over the last 2 years whose holidays will never be the same, who need to be reminded that it's okay not to feel perfect this time of year. That it's okay to give a voice to loss and to grief, and as well as to remind people to reach out to those who need it right now more than ever, and celebrate those they've lost and give them a hug that they need. So, for me, it was a very cathartic and also heart-wrenching novel to write, but I've received hundreds and hundreds of emails over the last couple of months from people that have not only, the story has resonated, but it's also given them a bit of hope again. People are putting up trees they haven't done in 2 years. They're decorating their house like subtle us does right here. And I've been humbled by the response to the book. So, I think it's a perfect holiday and winter book for folks to have. And, if you don't have copies, please go to McLean Eakin. They have it listed. So order multiple copies.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I mean, it's such a, it's obviously such a moving story of the book, and I think it sort of captures so much of what we want books to do, what we want writing to do. It's, taking people in their individual cases of loss and grief and connecting them to each other, connecting them to you. It's really, to me, sort of what art and writing are all about. Matt and Jess, Wade mentioned hand selling when he was talking about what an independent bookstore does so well. And so we've just heard from Wade, from an author's point of view, what this book is all about. And it is so emotional, it's so deep, it's so profound. So translate that for me as booksellers. Somebody walks into the store, they want to know what this book is about, or maybe you want to match them up to this book. How do you do it? What do you say?
Well, it's more of how well you can listen, because we get to know our customers and we know exactly what they're looking for and we know what they're going through in their lives sometimes. And books are so personal that it's really an honor for them to let us into their lives in some of those ways. I mean, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, people read books as an escape, and often we know what they're escaping from. And so we know what to steer them toward and what to steer them away from. And there have been many, many times when people have come into the store and they've had something in their hand and something in my gut just drops. And I think, you can't read that book right now. And so, I can grab a different book. I can definitely grab one of Wade's books and say, I think this is what you need right now. And, you can come back and get the other one. I'll write it down. I'll remember for you, but I think this is the one you need. And I think people appreciate that. They appreciate our honesty. There have been lots of books where we say, and I will not name any of them. You have to come here to the store to find out. But we have taken books out and said, I read that already, so you don't have to. You should read this instead. And, we're giving them hours and hours of their lives. So they appreciate it. And we love watching, especially the kids. For me, I watch the little tiny ones go from the picture book section to the chapter book section to the teen section. And then we have had multiple kids who are working in publishing in New York, and they come in and they're browsing in the fiction section, and they still refer to me as Princess Jesselyn, because when they were little, I would, do the little kid programs with them. And so it's really that's another way where we've been a part of their lives. You know, they'll say, well, you know what I was like in high school, and or you know what I was like. And so that's another way that we can personalize, you know, what they're looking for.
That is amazing. That's amazing to have sort of known people for that long. And it's amazing to kind of have that type of a window into their lives and to be able to kind of guide them in that way. I mean, that must be such a wonderful feeling when you're able to make that kind of a connection.
We feel like our staff is so amazing at that because they're very respectful of that connection. There are a lot of books out there that are not very good that people like to read. And I'm more than happy to celebrate that with people. You know, sometimes you just need a cheeseburger and it may not be very good for you, but that's what you want that day and that's what you're going to have. And I'm not going to tell everybody that you fell off the wagon and, you know, had your cheeseburger, but that's another way that we get to connect with people.
I love that. You know what, that, I mean, we can see we've got fans of Wade / Viola Shipman popping up here in the chat saying how much they love The Secret of Snow. Again, I'm going to remind the online audience that we are here to support McLean Eakin Booksellers. Click the link in the chat to head to the online store. If you loved this one, Wade and has a number of other books out there to pick up. And we're going to be talking book recs in just a few minutes, so there is no shortage of things to pick up. It's December 15th, people. There is still time.
And we have signed book plates from Wade as well, because I didn't think to bring any back with me, but people who buy the book from us will get a book plate that's signed from Wade in it.
Oh, that's great. Love it. Love it. So I did have a writing question for Wade, but actually before I get to that, Matt and Jessalyn, I'm going to stick with you for just a moment because you mentioned cheeseburgers. And this is something I love to ask booksellers about, because I think, you know, I think part of what you're talking about is sort of commercial success in publishing and the intersection with whatever you want to call it, literary value or the quality of the writing or whatever it is, and the sort of imperfect correlation between the two. Crack the code for us. Why do some books take off and become commercially successful and hugely popular? Others do not. And in particular, I don't really expect you to crack that code because I know there is no answer. But do you
That is the answer.
or maybe you're the answer. But I do want to add, do booksellers shape that, or do booksellers just kind of ride the wave and tag along? I mean, how much of a tastemaker do you get to be?
I would say it's a combination of the two. Sometimes we start the domino. You know, we get it going, and then the word of mouth. You know, word of mouth is definitely the most powerful marketing that there is for books, because when somebody shares a book idea with you, it's not because you just, you know, pass them on the street with a cold stare with, you know, your mask. I mean, it's probably somebody that you know and probably somebody that you trust, or yeah.
We will, you know, there definitely are different kinds of books. You know, I haven't gotten to the new Louise Penny and Hillary Clinton book, because that thing is a runaway freight train and it's got its own momentum and it's going to find its readers. So we try to find the other books that aren't going to find their readers. And the staff are really fun. We workshop our pitches, and we talk about having a good hook on a review, and you know and you know, we work on it, and you know, at the end of the day we'll say, it's still a little clunky, I need to work on it. And you know, we know when we've hit the 2 or 3 sentences that really encapsulate the story and draw the reader in. There's also a ton of techniques that booksellers use to kind of pull your intrigue in, and then we even do the physical movement of books. We do the
this is the most famous here.
This is our
favorite. So if I were telling Matt about this amazing book, and I would tell him how perfect it is for his kids, and then I would say, yeah, okay, and then I kind of move it away and go talk about something else. He wants what he can't have because I was moving it away.
Or you put it back on the shelf.
Put it back.
And that kind of, no. And they grab it, and that kind of...
and it was their idea then, not necessarily... It wasn't my idea, it was their idea. So they like that.
It's not a dirty trick, but
it's not a dirty trick. We wouldn't... I wouldn't do it with something bad, but yeah.
No, that's a little reverse psychology that you probably don't want this book. It's that's fabulous.
And we also make notes. I mean, when the front list catalogs come out, we tag things, and our adult buyer is fantastic at this. He tags things
by customer,
so that you know.
This would be good for Don.
Yeah, this would be good for so-and-so. And sometimes we order things for people before they're out, and I had a note for Hillary's mom in the Glennon Doyle Journal, and I said, I bought it, I ordered it for her mother, and in the notes I said, this is for Hillary. Her mom's not going to know why we're calling her. Just tell her that this is the book Hillary needs for Christmas. Yeah. And they love that.
They appreciate that.
That's fabulous. I love that. That's amazing book selling. Wade, I'm going to come to you. No shortage of your fans in the online audience, and we're putting up some of their comments saying how much they love your books. And I'll just remind everybody that you can head over to McLean Eakin online to pick up more, pick up gifts, pick up comps. But we also tend to be viewed by a lot of writers and sort of aspiring writers. So sort of maybe a couple of writing and sort of craft types questions for you, if that's okay. The first is that you spoke a little bit about writing this book that is a very personal story for you, and that really speaks to people who are impacted by COVID and what's going on in our culture right now. It is, I think, so hard for many writers to really be productive and to write and to produce in either of those circumstances, both during the pandemic and also when trying to channel very personal material. I wonder if you could just say a little bit about your writing process, how you manage to be productive during difficult times. Do you have a very specific process, or are there techniques that you use to keep yourself going? How do you manage it in such a prolific way?
Medication, usually.
Okay.
I always put it this way. My first book was published when I was 40, and I have felt like I essentially waited my entire life to begin writing. And so I wake up truly, no matter how tired I am, feeling blessed every day to be able to sit down and produce a book. It's my dream. It's interesting because I know a number of authors who are dear friends had a lot of trouble writing during the pandemic. I did not. I felt that it was a time in which I could kind of recalibrate and recenter. We did not leave home for a year. We were, like so many others, isolated, and I used every moment of that to channel into my work. And I think that was a blessing and a saving grace in my life, was that, for me and for many authors, we were able to escape into another world that we were creating. And so we could, for a few hours every single day, leave this one and the mess that we saw all around us and be somewhere of our own creation. And that was a great blessing to me. I'm very routine. I am up every morning, I mainline coffee, I sit at my desk, and I write for about 5 hours before I get to the business of the day, in the afternoon. And a lot of it is inspiration, but a lot of it's just hard work. I always say it's like one of my favorite episodes of Everybody Loves Raymond was when Raymond was just sitting in his car waiting for his family to get in it. And he's like, half of life is AIS, ass and feet. You sit here and you just do the work. And that's a lot of it for me is some days I'll get 500 words and some days I'll get a great 10 pages. I can never tell. But I feel once I get started and I'm guided by a big question for a book that I want to answer, then everything kind of makes sense from there. Everything starts to flow. So, with truncated deadlines, it's hard. I have 3 books out this year, and sometimes I just pray for a weekend off, and that doesn't come, which is why I get sinus infections and things like this, because I just wear myself down. But I still consider it every day a blessing. I feel very blessed.
That's wonderful, and you are incredibly prolific. And the other sort of interesting and impressive thing about your work is that you work your work covers different genres. I was wandering around my local independent bookstore this afternoon, Wellesley Books here in Massachusetts, and I was sort of looking at your stuff, looking at your books, and it sort of occurred they're sort of all over the store, right? So I mean, you're able to write, I think in different voices and styles. I wonder if you would just say a little bit about genre and sort of how you think about genre, whether whether you feel like you just have a couple of different voices that you use, whether when you're writing a Viola Shipman book, you sort of feel like there are particular tropes that you need to hit, or do you just write within your heart and let your publisher figure out what shelf to put it on?
That's a great question. I'm going to answer it in two different ways. I started as a memoirist, and my whole life, I say this all the time. I was inspired by Irma Bombeck. Grew up in the Ozarks in the 70s. I saw her impact on my grandmothers and my mother, and I thought, my gosh, I would love to do what she does. If somebody could laugh or have a different feeling about their family at the end of the day after a hard day's work, then that's incredible. And so I went into journalism. I did not love that. That's why I went into magazine publishing and writing, because I liked longer form writing and I liked channeling my own voice. But I started writing memoir because it's the only way I can make sense of the world. Growing up as a gay kid in the 70s in the Ozarks sucked. And humor was the only way that I could connect to people and also use it as a self-defense mechanism. So, that's how I started to make sense of my life and my troubles and my issues and my family, was by channeling that. With the Viola Shipman novels, it really does come from my heart. I look at my grandmothers, working poor women who never had a dime to their name, who never asked for anything their whole lives. And when I looked in literature and a lot of the books that I read, women like that were missing from the books that I was reading. And I felt that there was a void there. And I also wanted to tell the stories of my family and of all of our families. I think we've kind of lost that connection a little bit over the years. We look at who our social influencers are these days, and who are they? What experiences do they have to be influencing any of us? And I look back at who my social influencers were, and they were my elders, people that had, had a lot of trauma and difficulty in life, and yet came through it with grace and resilience. So I wanted to bring that to life in my works. Now, I want to talk about genres really quickly too, because I have I've seen it from both ends. When my first memoir, America's Boy, came out in 2006, it was not considered a memoir per se. When I went into bookstores, it was listed under gender studies. What the hell is that? And I found the same thing now writing, I'm going to call it contemporary fiction, as Viola Shipman. It's called women's fiction. What happens when you look and men are writing fiction? It's not men's fiction, it's literature. So I understand what has to happen in marketing and sales to get readers interested or targeted toward a book. I have to say, I've seen it my entire career, and it's been very frustrating to see how often good books are kind of de-emphasized or made less than because of who is writing the book or what subject they are writing about. So I don't know if that'll ever change, but that's my cold medicine diatribe for today.
I think it's so important. I love what you say, and I'm going to turn to Matt and Jesselyn to talk about genre for just a moment, because I really agree with Wade. What I find is that as a reader, I appreciate the genre system because I walk into a bookstore and it helps me to sort of find my way and make connections. I like this, I want to find this. As a reader, I like it. As a writer, it drives me nuts because I find that, in a different way from Wade, that, my work is put on a particular shelf where I feel like, well, there are a lot of people who might appreciate it who aren't going to go to that shelf. I write young adult. I sort of find it in a similar way frustrating. As booksellers, I wonder if you would talk a little bit about genre, the genre system, the utility of it, and also the limitations. Just any thought that you might have.
There you go. We've had so many conversations about this with other bookstores, and I think it's a culture. The culture of your store, whatever that may be, is the right fit for your store. For example, we don't separate. I don't know, gay fiction or Westerns or anything like that, because we think that people should enjoy the discovery of browsing the fiction section and maybe picking up something that they wouldn't normally read. And we think that kind of a discovery is a little, for our clientele, we think that works best instead of directing them and telling them what, by breaking it down into the smaller categories. We like to leave the categories a little more broad, because then people might stumble across something that they wouldn't normally pick up. In the same way that we don't call our teen section a teen section, we call it avid reader, so that adults feel like they can shop there too. And it's very close to the sci-fi fantasy section. And we do mix our sci-fi and fantasy, which some people think is just sacrilegious. So I apologize to anyone who has a problem with that. Our dragons and our spaceships go together.
But, Jess is right, and you all are right too. We talk about, should we take some of these titles that focus on gender issue or other things and break them out so people can peruse that section in its entirety? Or in doing so, are we going to allow people to avoid it in its entirety? And I think often
we do both too.
We do both. So we tend to do both.
We do little spotlights on things, make displays about things that we want to highlight, things that are going on in our, in the culture.
But we would rather people discover them, come across them, decide whether they are there for them or not. But we don't like the idea that people would be able to avoid whole sections or whole concepts or conversations entirely because we broke them out of a larger section.
Yeah, that's our fear for our customer. Yeah, I guess we
want the store to be a dangerous place. Oh, I love that. I love that. Oh, that's such a great way of saying it. That's just fabulous. And I love the avid reader label. I think that's brilliant. We are going to be coming to Book Rex soon to prepare the audience for that. But first, I want to touch on one other topic that I always like to talk about with independent bookstores, which are events. We are linking to McLean Eakin events in the chat. There we go. People will check it out. There's some fabulous events.
It's a little sparse at the moment.
Yeah, it's a little threadbare.
So right as Wade showed you, this is the mitten, and Detroit is here, Chicago's here. We are up here, and it is not the most tourist-friendly time of year, and we really do kind of go dormant from January into the summer. So our events will be very sparse at the moment, but we ramp up and sometimes have an event every day of the week in the summertime, and it can be rather hectic. So,
and COVID dramatically changed that for that reality for us, because we couldn't get people together and we couldn't plan for what might happen, and we don't have enough.
Can't promote.
We don't have enough staff to just spin our wheels on something that then ultimately would have to be canceled or rescheduled or anything like that. And that wasn't something that we thought. That's not where we wanted to put our energy. So we just didn't spend as much time on that during COVID. So it'll be something that'll be ramping back up a little bit.
Well, let me ask you to look back, and I'm going to Wade, I'm going to come to you after this and ask you the same question. But let me ask Matt and Jessalyn, let me ask you first. Looking back on the events that you have lived through, the events that the store has hosted, are there any that stand out for you as especially memorable, interesting, unexpected, funny, weird, terrifying, any of the above. Anything that sort of captures for you sort of the nature of independent bookstore live event.
I've only got one.
Okay.
Go ahead. You probably have the same one.
One is when Wade did a writing class, and he has done at least a couple with us, and has always really charmed the prospective writers and readers of his books, but future writers. And there was one in particularly, an older man who learned to really articulate himself better. And he, his family is a good friend of the store. He didn't live much longer. And that experience with Wade's class was memorable and spoken of at his funeral. And it's a very solid memory, I think, in both our hearts. And
his wife then had some of his writing to remember him.
Yeah, and she has that now forever. So that's something that's very special. And then on a more lighthearted note, I think I'll always love, we had an event with Ernest Klein, who wrote Ready Player One, and a guy named Patrick Rothfuss, who wrote fantasy or has written fantasy. They're both kind of big names now. At that moment, they weren't as big as they were, and they both drove all the way here, and we had a mass of people. We had video games projected on the walls because one of the books had a lot of video game features, and it was just, it was geek heaven for a night.
Ernie drove his DeLorean here.
Yeah, Ernest Klein drove a DeLorean from Austin.
Texas. and he got pulled over three times?
Yeah, just so the cops
could see it. Yeah.
So, but that was one of the more memorable ones too.
Yours are better than mine.
Never.
Yours are way better. I was going to say one of my all-time favorite events is with a Chicago author named Kate Hannigan, and she writes books for kids. And it was for her, I think it was her first chapter book called Cupcake Cousins, which is loosely set either in Saugatuck or somewhere along the Lake Michigan shoreline. And we had decided we were going to have a cupcake party, come rain or shine, we were going to do it. And more people just kept signing up. And the Parks and Rec people told us that we couldn't do it. And it was too late. The horse had left the barn. So we had the kids all meet here, and we went and set up in the public park on the hopes that nobody else had scheduled it, and had a parade of kids that walked from the store across. They had to cross only one street to get to it. And then they decorated cupcakes in the hot sun, and it was everywhere, and it was sticky, and it was disgusting, and it was wonderful. It was just, and she was overjoyed. It was one of her first events that she'd done. She's a great big deal now, but she wasn't then. And the best part about that event is that we still had frosting left over the next day. And that's when Wade did his writing workshop. And we found out that one of Wade's very favorite things in the world is frosting.
Just frosting.
Yeah. And he didn't even he wasn't worried that little kids' hands could have been in it. I mean, that drive was strong for the sugar.
Oh my God, I love that. So Wade, I'm guessing that your favorite live event was the one where you got a big bowl of frosting to eat.
But I'm frosting all the time. Any sugar is like the foundation of my food pyramid, so I'm all in.
So if you had a second favorite or a second most memorable live event, is there anything that comes to your mind as you look back?
I had a huge Southern. I went to a big Southern indie Booksellers conference a number of years ago, and I was the only man and the only Northern guy there, and I was seated between Dorothea Benton Frank and Rita Mae Brown, and they had a pre-signing before the big luncheon before we gave our speeches, and I had like one person in line, and they had like 700 waiting hours, and I was like, this is the worst event of my life. And Dorothea and Rita Mae leaned over to me and they said, if your speech is as good as your book, you're going to rock this crowd. And they were so sweet. They had both actually read my work, and it gave me all the confidence in the world. And it was the best, one of the best events I've ever done. And both became very, very good friends and took me under their wings and gave me a lot of advice. And, Rita Mae's still Rita Mae. She's one of a kind. And I miss Dottie like crazy.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. All right. Well, we've come to the part of the program where we are going to sell some books. And we're going to be dropping links into the chat like mad for the online audience and audience to keep your time to click through and to make some purchases, including, of course, this beautiful book, The Secret of Snow. Matt and Justin, you guys are the pros, so we're going to come to you first and ask you to tell our audience, what are you reading? What are you excited about? What are people buying? And we shall be linking in the chat.
Well, I'll just tell you, your viewers are going to decide who does the dishes tonight, because whoever's books sell the best doesn't have to do the dishes.
All right, let's do it.
I'll let you take first crack if you want.
Make it interesting.
Yeah.
Good challenge.
Okay. Well, we have a 5.5-year-old, so we read a lot of children's books. That's who's been photobombing here, and I kind of had her pick a little bit some of her favorites of the season. And I'm also the children's buyer for the store, so a lot of times I'll be in the children's section, and the staff will see me, and I'm supposed to be cleaning, and they say, "We know what you're doing back there," because I'm sitting there reading the children's books because I love them. And this is one of our new favorites. It's the Legend of the Christmas Witch by Aubrey Plaza and Dan Murphy, and you might know Aubrey Plaza from Parks and Rec.
Wow.
And actually, we discovered this book on Libro FM, which is our digital audio partner. Almost all independent bookstores that I know of they're affiliated with Libro, so we can offer what other big online booksellers can do. We have access to all those books that are in print as well. And this was a 40-minute long audio, and it's read by Aubrey Plaza, and her voice and her acting are just scary enough to draw the reader in, but not too scary to give them nightmares. The illustrations are absolutely fabulous, and it's the legend of Chris Torn, who is Kris Kringle's sister, and she lives in the South Pole, and she celebrates Yule, and she gets very upset that her brother is getting all the credit around the holiday times. And we love this one, don't we? Mm-hmm. I have a little critic right here. Do you want to say how much you love this book? No? Okay.
No.
A lot.
Okay.
We can assume it's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
She's speechless.
Did I do my second one?
Sure.
And then my second big children's book, this is actually a picture book called Gladys the Magic Chicken that Maris on our staff discovered, and she left a sticky note on it and left it on my desk, and it just said, "This book is everything." And so I carried it around with me for 2 days. It was too busy. I couldn't get to it, but I wouldn't let it out. It was with my planner. I just carried it everywhere I went in the store. And then when I finally read it, I thought, oh, it's pretty funny. And then I took it home and I read it with a child. I have never, ever heard my daughter laugh so hard. And she is, when it comes to books, she's spoiled rotten. She gets a different book every single night. Yeah. This is the only book that I can remember that has been requested every single night. What book do you want to read tonight? Gladys, 100%. Belly laughs. I mean, just chuckle. And it's by Adam Rex and Adam Rubin, the one who did Dragons Love Tacos, and the other guy who did Paper, Rock, Scissors, yes. And I can't think of the other one, but yeah, it's fabulous.
Very silly.
She was right. It is everything.
Oh, that's great. Two great recommendations. Fabulous.
I've got a couple of adult books that I've been quite fond of. This is one that is by another Michigan author named Karen Dion, and it is set in the Upper Peninsula, so 40 minutes to our north, and I sell this with a money-back guarantee. I tell folks that if you can put it down after 20 pages, I'll give you a full refund. And it is, it's a thriller about a girl raised off the grid in the backwoods. Dad's a bad guy, but he teaches her to hunt and track animals. And then when she's 12, he's locked up. And then when she has kids of her own later in life, he breaks out of the Marquette prison, and she's the only one that can track him. Mm-hmm. They're filming the movie right now. You will be up all night trying to finish it. It's just you tear through it. It's a cheeseburger. Very good.
What's the title? I can't quite see the title.
Oh, sorry. The Marsh King's Daughter by Karen Dion.
And it's on that landing page as well.
Yes, it's on the landing page, and it's a great read. And then I discovered S.A. Cosby this year, and I'm going to grab everything else he writes from here on. He's my favorite crime fiction guy now, and this is about two fathers who were not good guys in life, and they both lived on the wrong side of the law. They weren't good fathers to their sons. They didn't know each other. One is black, one is white. Their sons were gay. Their sons married each other. The fathers didn't attend the wedding, didn't acknowledge the union. And at the beginning of the book, the sons have been killed in what appears to be a hate crime. And these grieving fathers come together, roughly, to use their skills on the wrong side of the law to get the investigation done that isn't being done, they believe, properly by the police. And really and try to be the fathers they weren't in life. And so there's a lot of social issues and a lot of emotional issues, but it's handled very deftly, and it doesn't feel forced, and it reminds me of early Grisham that would discuss race or social issues, and it wouldn't be overbearing in the story. It was just an element of reality in life, and played into the characters. And S.A. Cosby does that amazingly well, and it has a wonderfully satisfying conclusion. So this guy's got great stuff.
Great recommendations. Thank you. Wade, can you give us any recs?
I'm sold already on what Matt just said. That sounds amazing. I'm going to do two quick holiday picks. One is, because that's what I've been reading. I'm going to do The Santa Suit by Mary Kay Andrews. It's short, sweet, the perfect little Christmas book. It's about a woman who gets divorced and buys an old farmhouse sight unseen, and shows up in a little town in the South to rehab it with her dog, and finds a forgotten Santa suit in the closet with a letter that she feels needs to go back to the family. So she seeks to find it, and it also kind of brings her full circle in her own life as well. It's really well done. I know holiday books, we all say, can be a little cheesy. This is incredibly sweet, very funny, and I think it's one of Mary Kay Andrews' best. And it's I think 250 pages. It's a super fast read for the holidays. And on the flip side, I love The Matzo Ball by Jean Meltzer, about a Jewish woman chronically ill who writes Christian fiction behind her family's back, and is asked to write a Jewish story. So it's all about her kind of coming full circle in her life as well. So I think two great holiday books.
Great recommendations. Thank you so much. We are running down on time. The time has flown by. We've got the last question of the program, which always goes to the booksellers. And so this is for Matt and Jesselyn, and this is our fill in the blank that we like to pose. Running a successful independent bookstore is part luck, part hard work, and part what else?
Love.
Love it.
We met at the bookstore as employees. And I told you she would hate this answer. We did, and we began doing laundry together first, and then we had dinner, and now we
painted his living room. That's what.
Yes, and we kept at it, and we got married, and now we couldn't be happier. And I think love helps a whole lot.
Well, and it's not. I mean, you're right. There is a lot of love in the bookstore. I mean, our staff they take care of each other.
That's true.
In ways that we have never seen before. I mean, behind the scenes during COVID, it was like coming into a safe, warm, loving place, at least for us. And I think for them as well. So she's nodding. Yeah. She has to, but it was this really tight bond that everybody got to make with one another. And when it was time to open, we couldn't open because we were too busy online and with phone orders. And we could have just hired people to add to the mix, but the mix was perfect the way it was. And so we would have rather had less business than mess with
Sacrifice
the
that.
love.
Yeah.
That was, you know.
Once that's altered, it can't be recaptured.
That's wonderful. I love that, and I can't think of a better note to wrap up our last episode of the year. That's just wonderful. We are out of time. I want to thank all three of you so much for being here today. I think the online audience has really appreciated it. For everybody watching and everybody watching in future time.
Oh my God.
Swag. It's not just books. Go to
That's
the
an older
website.
one.
Yeah.
I love
My
that
sleep
one.
shirt. I sleep in it almost every night.
I'm glad it holds up.
That's the
Thank
endorsement
you.
right there. Wayrouse sleeps in it almost every night. Pick up your swag. Pick up your books. All of the links are there. Pick up this beautiful book, The Secret of Snow. Wayrouse, Viola Shipman, Matt and Jesselyn, thank you so much for spending the time with us today. It's been such a
Thank
pleasure.
you. Do you want to wave goodbye?
Bye.
Bye, honey. To the online audience, this is our 80th and final show of the year. Thank you so much for being with us all the way through across the US, across Canada, over to the UK. So happy to finally make it to Michigan. It was worth the wait. We are back January 5th, 2022. We are going east but staying cold. We're going to be at Left Bank Books in Maine with Gregory Brown, author of the smash debut, The Lowering Days. Everybody, please join us to support Greg and support Left Bank Books. Have a happy, safe holiday. Everyone, stay well. Keep reading. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.